1.
What?
Labor Zionism and socialism. Class warfare played no part in labor Zionism. It sought to unite the Jewish working class with the Jewish bourgeoisie, not to unite the Jewish and Arab working classes. Labor Zionism believed in constructivist socialism, and the building of the future Jewish state. In 1920, the two Palestine labor Zionist parties, Hapol Hatzar and Abdut Havana, formed Histadrut. Golda Meir described Histadrut as a big labor union that wasn't just a trade union organization, it was a great colonizing agency. Pinus Lavon, the Secretary General, went further and denied that Histadrut was even a trade union. Rather, it was a state in preparation. Socialism was redefined as a tool for the advancement of national objectives. Collective organization was seen as socialist in itself. Socialist principles were abandoned when they came into conflict with colonization. Yitzhak Ben-Ziv, later Israel's second president, wrote, "Whenever we come across a contradiction between national and socialist principles, the contradiction should be resolved by relinquishing the socialist principle in favor of the national activity.
Really were frank, yeah.
We shall not accept the contrary attempt to solve the contradiction by dispensing with the national interest in favor of the socialist idea."
National interest. Ha! That's a joke. There are no national interests. Okay? There's interests of Rothschild and Balfour and Churchill and the other billionaires and millionaires. Those are interests that they are obliged to pursue. You know, national interests. There's no national interest for the United States, Britain, or even Israel, or Syria, or any other country. National interest. But how often do you hear that phrase, you know, of something that doesn't exist, which is totally hypothetical and really ridiculous? How often do you hear it? Every fucking day. From every fucking politician in the United States and even in other countries. There's no national interest. What, my interests are the same as Gates or Rockefeller or any of these other, what are you talking about? National interests. Well, it's the same in Israel, actually. They would like to everyone to believe that their national interest is for the security of their state and the suppression of the terrorists, the groups, and everything, all this crap. When they get served the short side of the stick, you know, they probably won't figure it out, but they might. Your interests are not the same with Netanyahu's interests. You see, these terms, these phrases, these concepts that are thrown around just all over the place, they don't have any meaning. None.
Nothing was more anathema to Ben-Gurion than the idea of labor Zionism becoming an instrument of social revolution among the Arabs. Zev Sternhell described labor Zionism as nationalist socialism. He would have used the term National Socialism, but it has been contaminated by the association with Nazis.
I guess so.
Ben-Gurion wrote that Nothing is further from the mind of Jewish labor than to engineer disputes, with all the material and political loss in their train. The Burl Katznelson equality was only a whip with which to scourge this concept of Jewish labor. Sternhell wrote of Katznelson that what shook this spiritual shepherd to the depths of his soul was not the civil war in Spain or the rise of Nazism, but an exchange of populations between the two kibbutzim. In 1906, Ben Gurion had urged the Congress of Palestine, PZ, and Jaffa to oppose those who wished to organize rather than exclude Arab labor. Ben Gurion described Moshe Smilansky of the Farmers' Federation as someone with a Zionist conscience uncorrupted by class doctrines. As long as the owner of an enterprise accepted the sacred principle of Jewish labor, he could count on the full collaboration of the Hallstatt. Speaking of the evil of mixed labor, Ben Gurion described the employment of Arabs as a class hatred of intelligent Jewish labor. The Union Railway, Postal, and Telegraph Workers was a bastion of the left with a mixed Arab-Jewish membership. Hillstadrut incorporated the union in order to separate Arab from Jewish workers and create a separate Arab section. Arab workers objected to Hillstadrut's Zionism, especially its policy of Jewish labor. In government employment, where exclusively Jewish labor was not possible, Hillstadrut campaigned for higher wages for Jewish workers. Ernst Bevin, leader of the largest British trade union, the Transport and General Workers Union, was emphatic. No, we would be absolutely against two wages. At a meeting in Haifa in 1924, union activist Elias Assad described how Arab workers saw on the membership card the words Federation of Jewish Workers, and they cannot understand what purpose this serves. I ask all the comrades to remove the word Jewish, and I am sure that if they agree, there will be a strong bond between us and all the Arabs will join. The Labor Zionist parties campaigned for a boycott of Arab labor and produce and the
Mm. Despicable.
they sought to create a hermetically sealed Jewish economy with its own settler working class. Labor Zionism represented racial autarky. autarky. In 1944, the mere rumor that a cafe in the exclusively Jewish town of Tel Aviv had taken on a few Arab workers provoked an angry gathering of thousands of demonstrators. Every member of Histadrut had to pay two compulsory levies for Jewish labor and Jewish produce.
Wait a minute. Lost me right there. You're saying 1944?
Yeah, now they're going ahead. I don't know.
And we're talking Israel, and the history dude had to pay. Give me that again. Back up just a little bit.
Okay, the labor Zionist parties campaigned for a boycott of Arab labor and produce and the conquest of land. They sought to
Yeah.
create a hermetically sealed Jewish economy with its own settler working class. Labor Zionism represented racial autarky. In 1944, the mere rumor that a cafe in the exclusively Jewish town of Tel Aviv had taken on a few Arab workers provoked an angry gathering of thousands of demonstrators.
No.
Every
Okay.
member
I guess I got it now. Yeah. Okay. Continue.
kind of sounds like the U.S.
Oh well, some blacks want to sit in at the drug counter, and the Americans come out in force to object and throw stones. This is the level of the American people and the Zionists. It's primitive. They They have nothing for us into the future. Let's put it that way.
Ben-Gurion coined the slogan "From Class to Nation" and redefined the class struggle as a war against Arab workers.
Ha! Ha! Well, we could go all into social democracy, Menshevism, half-ass revolutionaries and half-ass communists. And the problem there, okay, with trying to, I don't know what to say, sort of finesse the class struggle uh, and play a political card with Roosevelt, or, you know, somebody else, uh, where it doesn't work. So it's socialism or barbarism as, and I don't like that word barbarism because that's a racist term. I don't think the so-called barbarians were so terrible as the Romans said. But anyway, we use that term just as we use anti-Semitism, which is meaningless. But sorry, the point I'm making is you go for the socialist revolution, or you just maybe go on vacation or stay away because we don't need half stepping, as we used to say in the military. You're half stepping. You know, you're going for your objective, or you're not. Huh? And if you stuck between, you're liable to be stuck on the fence post with your balls stuck on the goddamn barbed wire.
So, labor Zionism consciously undermined Palestinian trade unionism. Jewish class struggle in Palestine was for the most part a fight against Arab workers. To be anti-capitalist in Palestine almost always meant to be practically anti-Arab.
Yeah,
In
that's it.
1930, after Hapal Hatzer had been convinced that the Abdul Havoda was as opposed to socialism as they were, they agreed to merge and form Mapai, the Workers' Party of the Land of Israel. David Hakohen, a former managing director of Soleil Bonnet, Histadrut's building company, described his difficulties, explaining to other socialists the dilemmas of socialist Zionism. I had to fight my friends on the issue of Jewish socialism to defend the fact that I would not accept Arabs in my trade union, Histadrut,
Mm.
to defend preaching to housewives that they should not buy at Arab stores, to defend the fact that we stood
Wow.
guard at orchards to prevent Arab workers from getting jobs there, to pour kerosene on Arab tomatoes, to attack Jewish
No,
wives in the markets and smash Arab eggs they had bought. To buy dozens of dunhams from an Arab is permitted, but to sell, God forbid, one Jewish dunham to an Arab is prohibited. To take
no,
Rothschild, the incarnation of capitalism, as a socialist and to name him the benefactor,
good,
to do all that was not easy.
good. Uh, I could interject a comment here.
Please.
Well, what they're talking about is the reformist trade unions. Now we've got a huge history, and I could, maybe go into it in the United States where they promoted the bourgeois, the trade union leaders that they could control. And of course, you've got the pre-McCarthy era where they purged the leftists, the communists out of the trade unions. And it's dialectical. I mean, you go, by which I mean, you go this way or that way. This is a big word, dialect. It means you go this way, you go that way. You don't go, you don't just stay still. Let's put it that way. And these reformists in the history, an imperialist, agency to promote the imperial interests in the Middle East. These people pretend to represent the working class. Well, I have news for you. They don't. They didn't. And they won't. But, well, it doesn't keep world capitalist opinion from saying, well, this is the labor movement. I mean, Israel, and so on. You see, so much of what we are discussing and need to discuss is about lies and propaganda. Because they can say, I don't know, Netanyahu represents the Jewish people. Can you imagine? They can say anything.
In April 1924, the Palestine Communist Party adopted an anti-Zionist, anti-imperialist outlook. It was expelled from Histadrut. Burl Katznelson said, "We don't want national strikebreakers in our midst." Social strikebreakers were fine, though. The Fourth Congress of the Communist International in 1922 condemned, referring to Hastradut and others, the pseudo-socialist colonialist tendencies of some categories of well-paid European workers in the colonies, which must be firmly and stubbornly opposed. Mapai formed the government of Israel
Exactly.
from 1948 to 1977. It was a firmly anti-communist and pro-imperialist party. Mapai
Yeah.
instituted a system of apartheid land discrimination via the Jewish National Fund, JNF. It also put Israel's Arab citizens under military rule from 1948 to 1966. Mapai was a militaristic party and after a dry run in the Suez War of 1956, conquered the West Bank, Gaza, and the Golan Heights in 1967. It was Mapai that proposed
My pie? Wait a minute, you lost me a little bit there. Well, my pie was the
the party.
fictitious labor left organization. But what do you say they participated in 56? I missed that part.
Yeah, they were a militaristic party.
And the 56 were, or what?
And it says after a dry run in the Suez War of 1956, conquered the West Bank, Gaza, and the Golan Heights in 1960.
My pie. Oh, well, that's what they call in the States the left.
Yeah.
Yeah, but go ahead, please.
It was Mapai that proposed the Elan Plan for settlement of the Jordan Valley and the confiscation of the strategic parts of the West Bank. In Palestine, Mapai and Mapam implemented a policy of transfer, i.e., the expulsion of some 750,000 Palestinians. This was not a new idea. Jabotinsky had already remarked how Hitler, as odious as he is to us, has given this idea a good name in the world. Mapam, the United Workers' Party, described itself as Marxist, but in practice it was no different from mainstream labor Zionism. Their socialism did not extend to their non-Jewish fellow men.
Yeah. Well,
Thousands
Well, I'll just interject briefly. When Lenin split the World Social Democratic Movement down the center, he actually knew what he was doing. And many people are wringing their hands and saying, well, he split our movement. Now, what you just said about Mapai, or this, we'll just say the Social Democrats of Israel, confirms the wisdom and validity of Lenin's split. You do not ally with pro-imperialist socialists. Okay, and this is what the Menshevik, Bolshevik, all the other splits, Social Democrat and Bolshevik splits involved. You just don't do that with impunity. Go ahead.
Thousands of Palestinians were massacred in order to encourage their flight. In November 1948, Elazar Perry, the editor of Mapai's newspaper Al Hamishmar, received a letter describing a massacre at Al Dawayima. Benny Morris estimated that there were hundreds dead. Agricultural Minister Aaron,
Was Benny Morris said what?
hundreds dead.
No. Okay.
Agriculture Minister Aaron Sisling referred to a letter that had received from Eliezer Kaplan declaring, I couldn't sleep all night. Jews too have committed Nazi acts. Sisling agreed that publicly Israel must admit nothing, but the matter must be investigated. The children they killed by breaking their heads with sticks. There was not a house without dead. Mapam's political committee was briefed on 11 November 1948 by the recently ousted Chief of Staff of the Haganah, Yisrael Gilali, about the killing of civilians during Operations Yoav and Hiram. Aaron Cohen led a call for an independent inquiry. The problem was that the commanders of these operations were senior Mapam members, Yitzhak Sedek and Moshe Carmel. Yosef Namani, a senior officer of Haganah, was stunned by the cruelty of Israeli troops. He described how in Safsaf the villagers raised the white flag, but 60-70 men were massacred and asked, where did they learn cruel conduct the Nazis? According to one officer, the most eager were those who had come from the concentration camps. Revisionist Zionism, of which Likud is the heir, was led by Jabotinsky in the pre-state period. Likud administrators had been a seamless continuation from their labor Zionist predecessors. Both Labor and Likud subscribed to the idea of Israel as a Jewish democratic state, and both agree that the contradiction between the Jewish and democratic can only be resolved in favor of the former. Labor and Likud are different currents from the same poison stream. People often see Zionism as having a left and a right. Even Fourth International supporter Gilbert Achar wrote that there is Zionism and there is Zionism. Achar criticized the equation of Zionism and racism for its totalizing nature. We can hardly treat all Zionists as birds of the same race's feather. Until the 1980s, Histadrut was Israel's second largest employer. It refused to employ Arabs in virtually all its factories, arms, electronics, aviation, etc., on security grounds. Only Salel Bonnet, which helped build the settlements, was willing to employ Arabs. This was a tantamount to a color bar. Military service was made a condition of most employment, and Israel's Arabs didn't serve in the army. History deliberately refused to invest in industry in Arab villages and towns.
Well, I would only comment with Greenstein. You, you just can't imagine the historiography and it's just so brilliant. I mean, who would want to delve as deeply as he has into this Holocaust? Who in the hell? I couldn't do it. I wouldn't be equipped to do it, but I wouldn't want to do it. And
Yeah.
I don't even know any goddamn historian in this goddamn world that would be equipped, would be strong enough to delve into this issue with the depth that he has.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
I delved pretty deep into the 1948, but
What's that?
I just delved pretty deep into
Nakba.
the Nakba in 1948.
Yeah.
That's why I know a
But
lot of
you see,
stories.
whatever you and I or 15 or 50 people have looked into,
Yeah.
Greenstein,
Well,
you,
I
you know,
have
a
one.
historian of some sort, or not a half or a quarter of a historian, I will say there is no historian in the world today on any subject, much less the most difficult subject of them all, that has explicated their subject matter
Yeah.
as his is has Greenstein. It's just amazing,
I'll just
amazing.
I'll just end with a story, which would be kind
Well,
of
don't end on us. What are you talking about?
well, it
Are
would
you
be like
ending?
a Palestinian Anne Frank, um,
No.
a story of a young girl who her father during 1948, her father was like the mayor of this small village. And so they were trying to, during that time when they heard of, you know, the Jewish, I don't know, gangs coming through and attacking, they tried to like get together and form a resistance, right? Which they didn't have much, of course. They're just little villages, you know. So
Yeah.
he locks, so this is a true story. He locks his 15-year-old daughter in the storehouse. He locks her in because he thinks
Mm.
she'll be safe there, and then he goes off to, try to whatever he was trying to do with the other resistance groups. He was kind of an old man.
Yeah.
But she
Be careful. Be careful with the Anne Frank. This was in the Netherlands. It was all over the place in my area. Believe me, it was you could not avoid it. And
I'm just saying
it's,
it's a true story of a young woman who survived that, and
I'm well. I'm questioning that was a true story or
and Frank.
that it is particularly relevant.
Okay,
You
well,
know,
let me just tell her story
there
real
has
quick.
been a lot of scholarship questioning the story of Anne Frank.
And Frank. Okay, well, let me just tell her story.
Okay.
So her father leaves her locked in the storehouse. So she can only see like kind of through a little peephole. I mean, she can't get
Oh yeah,
out, but
he's
she's
burnt, probably burned alive. I don't know,
she's in the
hanged or
listen,
discouraged.
just fucking listen.
Okay.
But so she's in the storehouse with all the food and everything and water so she can survive. But she's watching through the peephole, and there's like a family that comes through and takes shelter. They're trying to flee, but they take shelter in her home. And then the Israelis come, and so she witnesses the
The
Israelis.
Israelis?
She witnesses the Israelis
Wait
take
a
the
minute.
Palestinians.
Slow down, Elsa. I think you meant the Nazis came. You
No,
said the Israelis.
I am talking about. This is a story similar to Anne
We're
Frank,
talking about. Oh,
but it's a Palestinian
oh.
in 1948 witnessing the Jewish takeover.
Okay. I'm with you now.
Okay. So she's just watching through her storehouse and she sees a Palestinian family. They're fleeing, but they take shelter in her home, you know. And then the Jewish Haganah or whoever comes and gets this family out in the patio. Um, they shoot. They start with there's a couple. There's like three children. They shoot the three children
Yeah.
with the mom and the dad watching.
Of course.
And then there's a
No.
wait, let me finish.
All right.
There's a newborn baby, and as the commander is leaving, he just said, "Don't waste a bullet on the
Yeah.
baby." So
Yeah.
wait,
Well,
the soldier
okay.
the soldier is, told to bash the baby's head in or
Yeah.
whatever. But the soldier can't do it. The soldier can't do it. The sergeant's
If
left.
that happens.
So he just puts a blanket, he puts like a towel over the baby's face and he just leaves.
Yeah.
So he leaves the baby there
Mm.
all alone. And now the girl is just watching from the storehouse. And she can't, obviously, she's just frantic to try to, after the soldiers leave, she's frantic to
Yeah.
try to get out and save the baby. But she can't. She just listens to the baby
I don't know.
cry for
No, I don't
days.
know, Elsa. Please.
And
Please.
then, the baby is assumed to die
Please.
after a day.
Spare me
But
this.
she does eventually, she ransacks her
I
storehouse
know.
and she finds
I know.
a weapon and she's able to like get out. It's too late for the baby, but she escapes to Syria
Oh,
to tell
oh,
her story.
okay.
Anyway,
I didn't know that whole story. Frankly,
yeah.
but
But we don't hear her story,
no.
but we hear Anne Frank, of course. But
It's like that was just basically fictitious, but she did. I guess. Well, wrote something. You know, uh, it's all propaganda. Everything is lies. Okay, I'm speaking. You know, I'm not equivocating. I'm saying everything you hear is lies. Okay, and I can back that up as if you cared. You
oh,
know.
so you're saying this Palestinian girl's story is a lie?
Oh, well, I wasn't going there. I don't really know that story. I was intimating that everything you hear in the United
Yeah,
States,
right.
you
The
know,
stories you hear about.
your media, how stupid do you think? Does anyone have to be to think they have their media, their news? You dumbasses! I listened to the news. I heard, you stupid fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, you heard the news, you heard what didn't happen. Good for you, buddy.
Exactly. You know, and that is true. That's not an exaggeration. What you just said.
Yeah.
No way. Do
100%
you
fact.
understand the capitalist system, people? Huh? Do you understand the capitalist system? That everything that you hold dear and that you believe in and that you want to believe is controlled by the capitalist class. Do you understand that much? No. And so you don't understand that the media, the multi billionaires that control the media, are into your brain. Right in there. They're right in there, man. They're right in there between your eyes and just maybe above your nose. They're right in there. They're in there. And then on occasion, you feel like expressing your opinions. You understand how stupid that is and how ridiculous?
Yeah, I do. Okay, well, your hair is looking a little crazy, so maybe it's time to.
I'm sorry, producer. Let me go to the what do they call it? The where they put the
No,
code
yeah,
for
I'm
it.
just saying maybe it's time to call it a night.
The
End
Hollywood.
it here. We'll continue tomorrow.
Well, wait a minute. I haven't had everything I have to say. No, you're absolutely right, Elsa, and I appreciate you coordinating these things. And if I have anything to say of interest, well, I'll try to say it.
Okay.